Hello and welcome to Albion TV presents the AO Daily Show, your source of real news in an unreal world, keeping up to date on the latest news, events, and the great community of Albion Online. Today is the 11th of June, 2020, and I am your host, the Shozen one. And joining me today, as always, my co-host, my producer, my friend, Bogul. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Let's get this show on the road. What do we have on the docket today, sir?
We have a very long interview today with Voltel of the Brave Newbies. So that means we're going to have very little else to talk about besides that interview. I'm going to hit up some PSAs about what's going on in the very near future, about when you can see us and whatnot. We may even open a gold code raffle. And after that, we're going to go ahead and get to the interview. So first, Bogul. Tomorrow, we have 3 shows for the great audience tomorrow. Today is Thursday, tomorrow is Friday, and Friday means we have the Brave Newbies Fame Farm Show at 16:30 right here on twitch.tv/Albion Online. And we will be joined in that Fame Farm Show by the Brave Newbies, members of the very same guild that we will be talking to later today. After that, we will once again watch some great ZVZ action as we have seen the world of Albion catch a flame in the last few days, as it seems a coalition has formed to stop the empire known as the Partnership of Equals. Are they equal, Bogul? Are they really all equal? Or are some guilds more equal than others? We don't know. We just know it's a war. And we'll be covering that again tomorrow, probably around 17:45, 17:30, depending on when the action starts. And we'll be on a 15-minute delay for that show. So if you come on at that time and you say, they're not on, we're probably on and live, just catching up to that 15-minute delay. And then tomorrow at 19 UTC, just like today at 19 UTC, we have the AO Daily Show where we will have our end of the week special show where we'll actually talk to the audience about what's going on in their little world of Albion. But today, it's an interview with the Brave Newbies. And Bogul, do we want to talk about Saturday real quick too? I feel like I did Friday in depth.
I mean, as always on Saturday, it's the 4th week of the season. It is Invasion Week. We will have 2 different streams, one at 17:30, probably 17:45-ish because it's on a 15-minute delay. And then we will have the NA part of the Invasion coverage as well at 00:45 UTC on Sunday, that is then. But we will also, in between these 2 shows, have the Crystal League coverage together with Lupac at 20:30 UTC. So we will have a lot of stream action here on Albion TV on Saturday night. And yeah, that's our plugs, I suppose. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, so I have it on screen already. Voltel, Brave Vanguard, Brave Newbie. Do you want to introduce them, or are you guys going to do that in the interview?
Well, they do get a little bit introduced in the interview, but I will say that they are a long-standing new player guild that has worked their ways from the internal workings of CIR out into the broader world and now find themselves in a unique position here in Albion Online. And we'll go into it beyond that. So I'll let Voltel do that. We do go into it. It takes a while. Like I said, it's an hour-long interview. It goes back and forth. There are parts that are very, very heavily political that Voltel asked me to cut that I did not cut.
Wow.
And then there are places where we talk about the structure of the guild that go on for a little long that Voltel asked me to cut that I did not cut. Wow. Because none of it was really offensive or anything like that. It just, maybe it was a little long. And I had just as long as, I had an hour this morning to edit this thing, Bogul.
Things need to get out here on time on AlbionTV.
Yeah, the show needs to go on. I do not have time to make us all look like geniuses. I don't come off that smart in this one.
Let's listen to this.
Yeah, we should listen. All right. Thank you, guys. I'll talk to you guys later. I'm going to pull a few raffles. Have a good one. Hello and welcome to another episode of the AlbionTV interview series. Today I am joined by Voltel, the GM of the Brave Newbie Alliance. We've had a number of Brave Newbies on over the last few months as part of our Fame Farm on Wednesdays and Fridays, which you can check out at 16 UTC. But we also did an interview a few months ago, which kind of kicked off part of that project, if I remember correctly, as we were talking about the difficulties that new players faced. And we went on to some of the difficulties that the brave newbies themselves were facing. And I thought it would be great to have Voltel back on, and we could talk about how things had changed. But first, I'm going to give Voltel a chance to maybe we'll talk about who you are, maybe a little bit of your history. What do you think, Voltel?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, by the way.
Oh, no problem, man. I appreciate the help that the brave newbies have been giving the new players on the new player fame farm thing that we do. It's been a lot of fun. GV Black had joined us from Fricks, but we have Overdose and Sasari from the brave newbies, and I don't know which guilds they are in. Are they both?
We're really not structured as guilds per se.
Okay.
It's I mean that's one of the biggest misconceptions, right?
Well, you've actually talked about that in the past, and now we were going to go into a little bit about your histories, but why don't you tell us a little bit how it's structured, because you have mentioned that before. You say you have SIGs, which are groups of some kind. Do you want to describe that to me?
Special interest group. It's where we organize, create the infrastructure, the organizational structure, all that stuff for particular activities. So, say you want to gank, right? You're a new bro, you're a veteran, doesn't matter. There's a special interest group for ganking with the various, chests and gear setup and everything else, channels, comms, all that stuff. And it's all based off of what SIG you're in, not what guild you're in.
Okay.
We don't look at any guild differently. All the guilds are controlled by newbie leadership.
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually recruit guilds. They're all individuals. So when you see, a fluctuation of people, hundreds of people coming into newbie and leaving and going other places and all that kind of stuff, that's individuals. That's individual accounts. That's not guilds.
All right. So do the guilds themselves that people do join inside the Newbie Alliance represent anything then? Or are they just name tags that you come in and, well, today you just get to be on this name tag because we recruited you on a Wednesday?
It represents the fact that there's an arbitrary 300-man guild cap.
All right, but yeah, so it's not dependent on what SIG you're in or what special interest group or whatever. That's not what determines the guild that you get placed in. And it is more of a arbitrary, just we need to get you in here and we have 900 players.
With one exception, and that is Brave Vanguard. Brave Vanguard has recently been restructured as every other mainline ZVZ guild of most groups. It makes it easier to organize. It makes it easier to do a lot of things. So Brave Vanguard is the exception. Brave Vanguard has significant requirements such as 100 to 100 spec, minimum activities, mandatory CTAs. Actually, it's run just like most mainline ZVZ guilds.
Okay, and that is because you had players that were very interested in doing CTAs and having a more structured organization around them, and you guys provided that for them inside what you were doing before. Isn't that how it kind of worked out?
Pretty much. I mean, the reason we didn't do it in the first place was it's a balancing act. Is the reason we don't take hardcore ZVZ guilds is because it's a balance between some brand new bro that's literally at the crossroads, been playing 2 days, versus some guy who's 400 to 400 bomb squad type. It's a different mentality, right? So it was something we avoided doing for quite a while, and we had a lot of people that went to other groups like Arch or PoE or Blue Army or Final Order or you name it. We had a couple go to Elevate. And at the end of the day, a lot of the more grown-up new bros and some of the more veteran players, have been requesting it for quite a while, so we decided to do it. We offer regular content, we offer 6-1 GRP, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just like any other mid-tier ZVZ group out there, really.
Okay, because when we talked last time, we were actually talking about how you had an open door policy. You weren't there to keep people in. You were there to give people an experience and help them get motivated on, and you hoped that you could provide a long-term guild for them, but you knew that you didn't provide everything that like players would want. And it sounds like you have moved into what I would consider the more hardcore aspects of Albion. Required gameplay is like, I always think of that as pretty hardcore in any game. Like when you're required to be there at such and such a time for so many hours. Yeah, that's pretty hardcore. But it clearly you had people who wanted to do it. People were leaving to go join other guilds. Clearly you had kicked a few people. Otherwise they wouldn't have gone to Elevate.
No, we didn't kick. We didn't. There's only been... No, we didn't kick anybody.
Okay, I'm moving on.
Been a very, very good friend of Newbie, actually. Brian.
Good. So, how has this changed the gameplay element going forward here for the Brave Newbie Alliance? So we've talked a little bit about how before you were very much a new player alliance. It was very much about getting people involved in the early aspects of the game, getting a foothold in the game, learning how to play, even at points, whether it's the economy-based gameplay, ganking, like you said, you had a very large contingent. You had people who were even doing crystals, I believe. But now you're trying to get into the territory control. How has that worked for you? Because I remember not that long ago, you guys got kicked out of your home.
Yeah, we had all of PoE come sit on our face for a week and a half. And then we actually continued to fight alongside Fricks and Bacon as well. PoE was evicting Fricks for not paying them rent, I guess. So yeah, no, we definitely, had some issues. I would like to say we did defend the hideout one time.
Hey.
we did reset the fucking shield against all of PoE, but it was pretty obvious that there's no way in hell we were going to stand against that. I mean, most people can't stand against that. So,
well, it looks like right now it's taking everybody to stand against it to make a dent, and I find this current coalition very interesting. I don't know if everything's aimed in the right direction, because I did talk. I do want to say I talked to Frank Sinatra, as you and I, we've often talked politics when we've been on each other's shows. Frank did come in and he said it's very interesting that the player base currently sees the big bad guy as PoE, even though Elevate is clearly so far in first. And
I think it boils down to, people play this game for different reasons, right? People, whether it's training new bros, whether it's building an empire. I mean, it's a sandbox. So with a sandbox, you build sandcastles. Some people's sandcastles look different than others. I think there's nobody in this game that would deny that PoE is the strongest powerhouse diplomatically, politically, militarily, economically that this game has seen ever, right? So regardless of what their ranking is, I don't think, Syndic doesn't play for season points. Let's be real.
What else is there to play for?
A lot of GMs are like that, right? A lot of GMs don't play for season.
No, it's something that we talk about constantly, and I did bring up Frank Sinatra specifically because he's one of those guys who's never gone for season points and has declared victory a couple of times. One of which was when he controlled all of Anglia, and for him and his guild, that was a huge victory. That was an incredible victory, and at the time, I don't think anybody had that size empire. And then the next empire that was that large was the CIR empire.
Rent.
The CIR controlled empires of Poe and Rent. It took 2 alliances to create that sized empire, and then that size was kind of redone with the Money Guild CIR combination of Oops. They did very well for a while. But yeah, this new one, we don't know what the exact borders are. People try to, outline them, and we have some pretty good ideas. But without the alliance tags right now, it is hard to see exactly how much territory PoE controls and what fingers into whose guilds and alliances the CIR have managed to intermingle, we could say. But
that's part of the game, though.
Yeah,
right?
that is part of the game. And what has happened is a huge number of players have said or have seen what they've done and see that as a big threat and as the most powerful group right now. And that, again, has proven to be more of a target than the number one, really. I mean, the only group I can think of that ever was a target for being in first place was Money Guild.
Yep.
And I think and that was just because I believe King Mojo was trying to deny Derek a third gem. And I know he will never admit that, or it doesn't admit that. But that's what I think is the only time anybody has ever been attacked for being in first place.
Yep.
I think
I'm gonna stay away from some of this politics right now.
Well, okay, all right. Well, I brought I brought this up with you because I thought I know you have a lot of discussions with Derek, and I know that Derek has his own feelings on this now, and I've had a lot of discussions with Mojo, as have you. But as far as the value of who to attack, people see the Empire as the most valuable thing, and I always find it weird that our season points don't really reflect that, but I think that that's kind of good because it gives an individual guild a target they can achieve. Because saying become the biggest empire in the game to become first for a season is not always an achievable goal. And
well, honestly, I think in some ways, I mean, I don't really want to talk about season points, but I think season points are kind of counterintuitive, to be frank. But
okay.
that's a whole different subject for a whole different day, to be honest.
All right, well, let's talk about about this coalition. Are you guys involved in it at all?
No, absolutely not.
You guys are ducking and hiding.
We're not ducking and hiding. We're focused on building Newbie, and I mean, we've thanks to Arch, and we have a really good relationship with Gluttony and Arch, and they provided a place that we have an agreement with them that they are going to keep our hideout safe from certain people.
From certain people? Is that would that be PoE that you mean by certain people?
I would extend it to
to others as well. Okay, yeah, such as Blue Army, maybe.
No, actually, Blue Army's never actually attacked us. We've fought them. They've come in the area. We've fought them. We had Take Care make a deal with us and break it. We had Last War make a deal with us and break it on the behest of somebody else. So we've since Battle Break Plane we've gone through about a dozen hideouts, but now we have a level 3 hideout. We have a peninsula, very good from like T5 content all the way up to T8 content for new bros. We have 2 T2 hideouts. Things are quite a bit better than they were in the days of Battle Break Plains when we had Jurassic Park sitting on our face for weeks.
Well, that's nice. So you have your own space now. It doesn't sound like you have a necessary enemy right on your doorstep, so you're able to grow. That's good.
We have some small enemies.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Do you have any kind of conflict going on? Because I feel that conflict is what's necessary in this game to progress players' understanding of the game. If you get, like we talk about the crossroads and how it gets stagnant for new players, I believe that peace creates a stagnation for high-end players.
Well, I think that also is part of the reason why you're seeing people rise up against this empire as they're realizing how extensive it is, right? Because
it does have quite a large border if you look at it and you start adding all the different groups on, such as Sun and the Expo and such like that, and BRPO, and like these becomes pretty large. And I think Bloka alone, if you look at Bloka, like they have like 5 different alt alliances or some crazy shit, right? It gets to a point where there's naps and nips and this, that, and the other, to a point where, as a content creator, whether it's low level content or higher level content, you have to ask for permission to, can I attack this person on a Tuesday, right? And it's most content creators don't want to screw around like that. They want to log in, put together a group, go bang, have fun. And if they can't do that because, these 37, guilds and alliances are, renters, that kills content. It's one of the reasons Newbie, when we first left the east side and we went to the west coast,
at the invitation of Gluttony. We actually moved to the south for, just to kind of recoup, because we had been pretty much in a constant state of war almost since Newbie had been formed, with Poe and elements of Poe coming after us through different ways, right? Whether it's mercenaries or directly. And we were sitting in the south, surrounded by Arch, and we, ganked the living shit out of them. They wanted a nap. We agreed to it. And it almost turned into the end of Newbie because we didn't have any content, right? We were surrounded by tons of dudes we couldn't attack. We couldn't dungeon dive. We couldn't gank. We couldn't ZVZ with. And we actually essentially just like begged Gluttony, not begged. I mean, it was kind of like, hey, like, we have to do this. This is really what we want to do. But we're going to die as an alliance because of that lack of content. Because that's one thing we do highly encourage any new player, right? Is we give them free gear. We encourage them to go out, kill, be killed, experience the game, realize that death is part of the natural, cycle in this game. And that has the result of turning most of these new bros into very bloodthirsty new bros. And so, when they have, 5 different naps with all these different groups and they can't attack these guys, they can't attack these guys, they can attack these guys, but only in this circumstance, or it turns into where it's not fun, right? It's not fun at all. And, we went to Arch leadership and we're like, this isn't what Newbie's all about. Newbie's about giving the experience of all aspects of the game, and one of the big parts of that is PvP, right? This is a PvP full loot game. And so we actually moved from the south to the north because in the north we could have that circumstance with no naps, none of that crap, and still be, I'd say, friendly-ish with Arch, on friendly terms, at least strategically, but not have to worry about okay, we can't dungeon dive this group because if we dungeon dive this group, it'll turn into a diplomatic incident, right?
You absolutely need to be able to have content where you live. It's very important, and we talk about that often. I mean, is that not what the Newbie show is about that we do on Wednesdays and Fridays, is getting people into content? I think that it is.
Yeah, actually, one of the things that I've been thinking about doing is for the Newbie show, at least like once a month or twice a month, is like putting together a gank group, getting those guys into 4-1, and then taking them out actual ganking on the Newbie show. That's been something I've been thinking about. That's a really low bar of entry for content.
Yeah, well, I think that'd be great. I mean, that can, like, one of the things we have noticed now with the Newbie show in particular is that the players aren't as new anymore. We do not have the 600 people in around each and every single crossroad anymore. Now it's down to about 250, 300 people around every crossroad, which is still a lot. But it's not the numbers that we were seeing when we started this, when we really needed to make something like this happen for new players who were coming in off of, the COVID shutdown, and we had just a huge influx. Now I feel like there's a lot of early mid players who could really benefit from either like a crystal group or, with somebody leading a crystal group and just telling them, let's go do some ones. Everybody get your 4-1. We're going in.
I think getting people some, their first kill would be.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Actual.
Welcome to Albion. Get them killed.
No, get them a kill, right?
Well, either way, I think is good. Taking him out and ganking would be great. Doing even a bit of faction fight where we set something up for new player groups to fight each other in like a tunnel or something would be interesting. Anything to get players more involved, I think, is great. And that's one of the reasons I like working with the Brave Newbie Alliance, is because so many of your members have been willing to come up with ideas on how to engage with players. It's like with Funstealer. I always like working with him because he's always trying to find new ways to engage with players and make a new kind of event. And I think that kind of attitude and that kind of mentality is very important for MMOs in general. You need to find those kind of content creators.
Well, a lot of people are like, why do you give people free gear and do that? And the main thing is we want to get them out there, and we want them to start experiencing the game, right? Like, we don't force people into the black zone, but we make it as easy as possible for them to get into the black zone, right? And so yeah, I mean, we've had guys that, you know, were brand new players, figured out they're, you know, they love ganking, or they love ZVZ, or they love crystals, and, you know, now they're in a top tier guild, actually. You know,
Nice.
so it's for us, you know, content is number one, right? A lot of groups aren't structured like that, where, you know, if it isn't CTA day, they're not logging in. For us, it's like, hey, who can we go murder, right?
And you have that now where you are around Arch. You have the freedom to go and get some dives in and go attack some people and have that constant content to bring it back around to what we were talking about before.
It's ridiculous. I mean, literally, you can log in 5 minutes, you're killing or being killed, right? It's an amazing level of content. Some people in Arch aren't super thrilled about it. You know, they'll bitch about the fact that Newbie's sitting in the zone camping it for 6 hours.
I did get a message about that the other day. Why are you supporting Newbie when they camp the portal zones for 6 hours? And I was like, did they?
Yeah, we do that rather regularly.
Oh, you terrible.
A lot of times we just camp until they show up with a bigger force. We fight them, we lose, we die, we win. Doesn't really matter to us.
I gotta say, I did find it very ironic that I did get that message from an Arch player.
Yeah, we've kind of turned ganking into a whole new thing. Yeah, we shut down multiple zones, right? Like, because we're also trying to. It's not just ganking for the hell of ganking. We're also ganking and securing zones to protect new players in T5s and T6s, so they're not getting dove 24/7, right?
Hey, whatever helps you sleep at night, man.
Me personally, I'm just looking for loot bags, but
Okay.
it does supposedly help new bros, right?
So since I have you on here, and you're well known for talking about the politics and the rumors of the world, I've heard a couple of rumors, and I would like to hear your thoughts on these, because you are kind of, I don't know, like, I would say in the middle of it. You're saying you're in the middle of Arch, like right now you're living near them. I've heard rumors that both Arch and Squawk are working with Poe.
Definitely I think it's public that there was some cooperation between Arch and PoE going back, dealing with, like, for example, Tidal and Domnet, right? And to be honest with you, I was on the same field as Syndic when dealing with Domnet, because me and Syndic do not agree on anything, really.
It happens, yeah.
But I think we both agree that, you know, Domnet is one of those guys that he's just, yeah. He's literally pissed off, I think, just about everybody in the game. So I think Domnet, for example, is one of those people that everybody can agree upon.
Yeah, well,
I know that, you know, there was some cooperation, you know, fighting against Squawk and some others between PoE and Arch. I don't think that cooperation has continued. I think it's ended. As far as Squawk and PoE, I mean, Robin Hooders said on, you know, your show multiple times. It's been leaked. It's been, you know, put on Reddit, Trash Talk, etc. That there's been some kind of relationship between Squawk and PoE, possibly going back before Queen, right? So I'm not really going to comment on that, but it doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah, I was hearing more about the most recent days during the current coalition, like that there were new tentacles being formed and new agreements being made in the back rooms in these very last few days, as there is an attempt to shore up sides during this this giant battle that may very well change the landscape of Albion forever. That is the intention, anyway, of the members of the coalition, as it is always their intention to change the landscape of Albion forever whenever there is a coalition.
I think it's more simple than that. I think it's come down to people don't really care for the fact that there's a couple of people renting out the majority of the game, and it's killing content, right? I think that's what it really boils down to. I mean, Newbie is the opposite of a rental empire. I mean, just by
Wait, you give out hideouts? You pay people to make hideouts in your area?
Not quite, but at the end of the day, rental is about killing content. If your renters are getting farmed 24/7, they're not going to want to pay rent. The PvP and rental are like oil and water, right? Newbie is the opposite. Like I said, we moved from the south to the north. We gave up our hideout in the south, so we could dissolve the naps that we had, kind of fallen into with various elements of Arch. And at the end of the day, we're literally the antithesis of a rental empire. If we're not getting daily content fights, whether it's ZVZ, small scale, small gang warfare, massive fights. I mean, on last reset day, we, formed almost 150 dudes and went toe to toe with Take Care.
Not bad.
We didn't come out on top, but I mean, how many guilds can go toe to toe with Take Care and come out on top, right? So
I would say less than 20.
Probably less than that. But anyways, my point is, bottom line, from a couple dudes ganking, dungeon diving, all the way up to battle mounts and large scale ZBZ. We thrive on content. If we're not having daily groups being led, if we're not having conflict, if we're not having at least ganking groups or ZVZs or scrims or crystals or faction warfare, or the list goes on, my guys are getting annoyed, right? They want to fight. They don't want to sit there and gather all day quietly in some little corner. They want to fight. They want a PvP. Win, lose, it doesn't really matter. It's about the fight, right?
Absolutely. You want to have content. That's what this game... I mean, people don't play this game so that they can wait for fights or hear about somebody else fighting or hang out in the city, unless you're making some really high-end bags.
Yep. Bags
on the black market. It's good time. Good times. But no, most people want to have action of some kind, even if it means losing.
Yeah,
sometimes
we
you have to
care.
lose.
We literally don't care. That's why we hand out free gear. I mean, we hand out thousands of sets, and encourage people to go do Hellgates, encourage people to go gang, do ZVZ, whatever their flavor, that interests them. And at the end of the day, like, that's what this game is about, right? Like, it's a full loot PvP game. Like, that's the basic fundamental of Albion, is that it's a PvP game. And I think, back to your question, I think there's a lot of people that see rental as, unfortunately, at the scale that it's at right now, whether, some people say, I think it's pretty safe to say that some people say it's about 45% of the map. There's other people that say it's, 60,
like a third.
70%.
Wow. I was hearing a third, 40, 60. Oh my God. It's 60%.
Regardless of what the number is, whether it's, 90% of them, right? There's a lot of freaking rental of territories and hideouts that's going on. And, that's something that a lot of people don't really like, and that's what makes a game like this awesome is, somebody like Syndic can go set up a rental empire, and some people can, his castle, his empire, and people can, band together and go kick down the sandcastle, right? That's what makes this game awesome.
Absolutely. So I did want to know, like, about that early time that you guys had started. What really brought about the building of the Brave Newbie Alliance here? Because so many people are like, oh, does that have anything to do with Eve? And I know a lot of you guys have connections to Eve, and I did kind of want to go over that a little bit. So if you want to, like,
that's actually how we got into Albion, to be honest. That's how me and Overdose met Syndic, actually. A lot of people have heard that me and Syndic go way back, and that's true. I started playing going back, Alpha days, 2014. Played with groups like KDS and Red Army and Infinite, and the list goes on.
Infinite might return, by the way.
I've heard that. Yeah, or you might be coming back.
Hmm?
So, I was playing Eve pretty extensively, and Syndic. So there's a lot of people don't realize is there's two Syndics in Eve, two relatively well-known Syndics in Eve. One was a Goon Swarm director. It was a FC, which is the equivalent of a shot caller. And then there's another one that ran a Russian rental alliance in a group called the Drone Russian Federation. Syndic had approached me in Overdose and portrayed himself as the Syndic from Goon Swarm. And, a lot of people don't really know much about Goons if they don't play Eve, but relatively speaking, they're the bad guys in Eve, but they're, I guess, the honorable bad guys would be the best way of putting it.
Well, they're like the gamer dad bad guys. They have longer notebooks than Conflict. I mean, they have more rules on how to get the bad things done than anybody that I know of. They wrote the book on it, literally.
Yeah, they're very well organized. They're competent. They have certain lines they won't cross. No joke. No pun intended. And so when he's like, okay, I'm this guy, I hadn't really interacted with that particular Syndic for various reasons, but he had a relatively good reputation. And so who really looks and questions somebody pretending to be somebody in another video game, right? Especially when it's not like I'm the Matani. Okay, well, no, you're not. So it wasn't like something that I really thought anything of. So we joined Syndic. We helped him. We were part of CIR for 2 years. Helped with the first rent, and as you've said a few times, I did the spy stuff and meta playing type stuff. Overdose is a very prolific propagandist from Eve. He handled the propaganda. And then some things came to light that were something that we were not really interested in being a part of. And we decided, we had been, and honestly, Syndic, CIR leadership as well, had been planning at some point in creating a new player organization. That was something we've been planning on doing for quite a while. And when we decided to leave CIR because of the differences in moral perspective, I guess would be the best way of putting it, we decided to kind of speed line those plans and form Brave Newbie. Quite a few of us are Eve players. When Syndic approached me, I brought a lot of people over from Eve. And, we actually had some people that were part of Brave Newbie's founding core. I had helped Lichton years ago. Overdose had actually set up their training program. And we'd also been involved in some of the other new player organizations in Eve. And so, yeah, it was kind of the inspiration. Brave Vanguard, for example, the name Brave Vanguard is actually a mix of a couple groups from Eve. Brave, which is brave, obviously. And then Vanguard, which is from the other side, which is Pandemic Horde, which is also a new player organization. Their higher-end players were called Horde Vanguard. So it was kind of a mixture of Brave Vanguard, right? So it's more of a kind of a play towards E players, so they know, hey, there's a lot of E players here. We have the organization like E players. We have auth, API-based auth. We have these different types of organizational structures that E players, like special interest groups, are, very Eve-centric. So an E player kind of knows what to expect when they come. They know, okay, this is set up similar to an Eve-based group. So it was kind of mashing it all together, so the people coming from Eve knew we were Eve players. But realistically, the other big thing is when it became clear how extensive the rental plans were, that was also an issue for us, because I was involved in one of the biggest rental empires in Eve. And saw when unfettered rental, ran amok.
The big blue donut.
Yes, the big blue donut. And that was a big concern for Well, it's not copacetic with content. It's not copacetic with, having conflict drivers and, having rental on a scale where half the map or more is being rented. It's not copacetic with having good content, which is realistically what you want to have for a new player. Because players come to this game for multiple reasons, whether it's economy, gathering, ganking, whatever it might be, PvP. And if you don't have that set up, they're not going to get that experience, right?
No, absolutely. Yeah, you need a little bit of help in this game.
Yeah, and realistically, new player organizations are in a lot of ways the antithesis of a rental empire. And so I think you'll see, a lot of people are like, oh, Syndic hates Voltel and Newbie. Well, I would say Syndic doesn't really like new player organizations.
Unless he, wasn't he trying to have one himself? I mean, as a rental empire, controlling the largest new player organization would be a boon to you because you'd literally have a throughput-like system of taking people, bringing them in, placing them into groups, and then sending them out to be guilds that basically fund your rental because you give them a hideout and tell them, you live here, you're my friend, now give me money.
I'm not going to comment on that, but that's definitely something that gave me an overdose pause as far as, what we wanted to do with a new player organization versus what other people wanted to do with a new player organization.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I will say that definitely kind of was a factor in our thinking process of deciding to go off on our own. But honestly, we were attempting for quite a while to maintain, I guess you could say copacetic relationships with CIR leadership, even though obviously that was clearly not wanted. But at the end of the day, how do I put this? A new player organization, whether it's, it's not Newbie, right? Like, if you look at, we were probably the most visible, where CIR and PoE fully deployed upon us. But they also went after Fricks. Fricks was a new player organization. They went after Fricks for 7 weeks, and people kind of forget about them.
Oh, Fricks just got in trouble. They just lost their hideout the other night to Conflict.
Which they were renting from, right?
Yeah. Well, they made a mistake during that rental process. They didn't follow the rules, and it upset some Conflict members. You got to be careful. The rental business is it's a dangerous business.
It is, but back to the new player stuff. Newbie and myself are not the only new player organization that's been targeted by these folks, right? Fricks was targeted. Bacon's has been targeted. It literally is. New players are, very lawless, very, fuck the system. They're logging in, excited about the game. They want content. They want a PvP, and that is, again, like I said, that's anti, rental, right? Just by its very nature. So it's I obviously, me and Syndic have our own personal stuff that I'm not going to get into on the show, but at the end of the day, we are not, we don't have a exclusive right to say we're the only new player group that, PoE or others have gone and crapped on their doorstep, right?
I'm glad that you guys have found a way to integrate yourself in and get this kind of going in the right direction. Yes, you're going to have enemies. Yes, there's going to be people who fight against it. And yes, there's going to always be someone who doesn't like the way you're doing it yourselves. But clearly, you're not alone in it. Lots of groups out there, and you're making a good stand against it. So,
well, I think also I sent you the breakdown of our SIGs, right? I think that's kind of important for people to understand, how they could access the content. Do we have 2 minutes to quickly go over our SIGs?
Oh, sure. Why don't we do
what they mean?
Yeah, I'll pull that up on screen for everybody to see.
Because that is quite different. I don't think anybody else is structured that way.
So you're broken into basically 4 different groups, right? You have your Silver Squad, your Fame Farm, Recruitment, and PvP.
Yep. So I'll kind of go through them real quick. So Silver Squad is obviously making money, teaching new bros to make money. also making money for the Alliance, and that goes by market manipulation, buyback, crafting, refining, logistics, and islands/farms. So market manipulation is exactly what it sounds like. Buy low, sell high, kind of at a very basic level. Obviously, there's as you get more experience as a newer player, there's higher levels of that. Actually manipulating markets, crashing markets, understanding basic economy theory, that type of stuff. We have a guy that's really he's a relatively new player to Albion. He's experienced both in real life and other games and economic market manipulation, that type of stuff. Then we have buyback. I think we're the first alliance to do this, which is actually kind of cool. So what we do is we offer a buyback program across the alliance where if a new player, say, they moved out to the Black Zone, they've done fame farming or whatever, or they ganked somebody's 8-1 and they want to sell it, they can just put it in a special tab. It gets it's insured by the alliance. The alliance moves it, sells it, gives them a percentage of the split of silver. So it gives them a way to not have to try to transport all their shit and then get ganked and lose it. The alliance takes the responsibility of that. Obviously, the alliance makes a few bucks for doing that, but we also insure it. So if somebody, if we're moving the stuff and it gets killed, they get a certain percentage guaranteed, right?
Sure.
Then we have crafting, which is a couple different things,
Well, everybody knows what crafting and refining are. I'm sure that, like how much more detailed can your crafting and refining be than somebody else's?
Well, it's actually pretty in-depth. We have training programs. We give people free materials to craft, to level up their spec. There's programs where they can help with, crafting for GRP. They can do focus donation. They can, simply, get help on how to make money, whatever it might be. Same thing with refining. Logistics is a little different. Logistics, we have two aspects of logistics. One is combat logistics, moving stuff in the Black Zone. Then we have royal logistics, which is moving stuff between cities, which is an opportunity for a new bro to make money. Moving stuff from Fort Sterling to, say, Marlock or Marlock to Bridgewatch or what have you. Then we have islands and farms, which is, I wouldn't say self-explanatory. A lot of people don't know how to play with that. It's, tending guild islands, laborers, doing farms. We have tons of guild islands and farms. Then fame farm, real quick. We have the basic stuff, which you guys are doing in the crossings, all the way up to doing 8-1 group maps, speed runs, Avalonians, hardcore expeditions. We actually have overdose. I think they're up to like level 12s, level 13s, or maybe 14s. I don't know. But they're, all the way from, entry level hardcore expeditions all the way up to, a highly efficient hardcore expedition running. Recruitment's kind of an interesting thing. It's more about onboarding people, right? Getting them speed, explaining the game, getting them plugged into the different SIGs. Because again, there's not a lot of groups that are structured.
Yeah, you guys have a little bit more complicated group setup than others, and I feel like we're in the middle of a guild meeting here. And all right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get you separated into 5 different types of money gaining groups here. We're gonna separate you by. No, I understand, but you guys do a very interesting recruiting thing. This is one of the SIGs that I do find interesting because you do more for new players than a lot of other guilds do, and I think that's really good. And like you said, you have it a little bit different. You have somebody who actually goes out there and tries to recruit people. You've told me in the past that you had people, including yourself, going around to all the crossroads and trying to introduce people into new types of ways to play, and you found that the best way to get people into the guild was to literally help them during the early parts of the game. I know you have some.
I've run into people that are literally have been stuck in the crossroads for weeks. So if you're a veteran out there listening, it sounds crazy, right? But there's literally people out there, new bros out there, that literally have been trying to get out of the crossroads for weeks and they don't know how.
Right, and I've seen you guys do a lot of work towards getting them out, and I think that's great. And that's actually something your recruiters do, not just taking in names from people off of a website or dealing with the different, names that come onto your Discord. You actually seem to go out there and actually do real recruiting, which I thought was cool. What does your HR person do?
HR we're a very tolerant, non-toxic group. We don't discriminate sexuality, gender, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So occasionally we'll have, edgelords that come in and stir stuff up, and HR's job is to kind of work through those issues, right?
Okay.
We have 1,000 people in the Alliance, and you got to realize most groups, that say have 1,000 members, half of them are alts, et cetera, et cetera. The majority of our numbers are actual people, right? Because they're new players, it's their first account. So that 1,000 people is I wouldn't say 1,000 people, but it's a lot higher number proportionately than most groups, because this is their first account, this is their first play, player, character, etc. So there is a lot of
interdisciplinary. We've always had issues in every guild that I've been in. You always have to have somebody who's in charge of that. Yep. Who can be level-headed and just say, nope. Either that was crossing a line or you need to do better. One of the two things. But then PvP. You also have mentors that really, this is also what you were talking about. What we do on the Newbie show is we get people to come in and do events. Now, your mentors, they actually do stuff with people, right?
Yeah, they'll take people depending on their experience level. We have people that, all the way from they're a couple weeks old and they know the basics, and they're just helping somebody get out of the crossings and get out to the black zone and, get their first gear sets for ganking or fame farming or whatever it is they want to do, ZVZ, whatever, to, we have people that, are pretty high-end GVGers or ZVZers that, will take people under their wing, show them how to do bomb squad, or show them how to do crystals.
And that kind of stuff is very important. Sure. Just having people take you through the stuff, the many different aspects of Albion are great. And I understand that you also have a full-on help channel and everybody can ask questions. And there's tons of people there who are trying to get you, as a new player, more advanced. But you actually have groups running a lot of the times by these two content creators who go out there and try to help people with very specific things. And I think that's great. But you guys also do a crap ton of PvP now. This is where a lot of other people will recognize these members in their guild, as you have somebody who's in charge of running your ganking squad. That's your highwayman, right?
Yeah, so highwayman is ganking. We have different aspects. Small, we have larger scale where we have, 60, 70, 80 new bros in a zone, locking it down, to being spread out across multiple zones, to, going after battle mounts, and everywhere in between. As you mentioned, there's been people that have bitched about, newbie camping and ganking for hours on end. And realistically, that happens.
Now, I want to
quite a bit.
Keep this to Overworld for a second before we go look at your PvP groups, which I imagine is your 5v5 group. You have this Lion's Legion. What the heck is that? Shotcallers is pretty self-explanatory, but what is the Lion's Legion?
Lion's Legion is faction warfare. Right?
Okay.
So that's Outpost, that's Open World, ZVZ, that's doing even things like doing Innismon, doing heart runs, etc. Right now, you talked about content. Usually we have anywhere from 4 to 10 different groups going on at any given time. I think right now we have 4 or 5 groups going right now as we're talking at the crack of dawn.
That's not bad.
So whether it's Fame Farm, ganking, ZVZ, faction warfare, etc. Lion's Legion is faction warfare. So.
But you're just saying is there's basically you have somebody out there who's in charge of all aspects of different types of PvP. Somebody's always trying to put together a group, and if you're a new player and you're trying to learn a specific aspect, you'll find it, and there's somebody there who's there to teach you how to do that. And part of the very reason for your existence is to help new players, and that goes from every player along the way up. So they are very willing to help people get their questions answered, get their gear in what they need, and get out there and into the action. And you basically have a very structured way of doing it. I think that's very helpful for players.
Yeah, it's something we have currently. We have a need for.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about mentors, when we're talking about these different things. At the end of the day, we're always, we're growing rapidly. I mean, I think we probably went through 700 players last month that we trained. Some of them obviously, quit the game. A lot of them stick with the game, but decide to go somewhere else. We have people go, I think, pretty much to every group in the game in the last month.
Fricks are recruiting.
Sure. But at the end of the day, it's trying to give or have resources or, people leading various types of content. It's like I had some people that are like, why do you have all this leadership? Like, why do you have all these people doing all these things? Because
so it gets done. Like, I mean,
it gets done.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us who've led guilds before understand what happens is you end up getting a small handful of people who become content creators and pull people out. And over time, those content creators end up picking the few things that they really end up like doing. Like they like doing those, and that's all they end up doing. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is when you ask them to do something else, because eventually you need those few content creators to step it up in the other direction and do other things, that burns them out or that turns them off or what have you, and you end up losing content creators, whether it's the game changes or whatever. Like if that piece of content disappears,
is a lot of groups, guilds, alliances, they focus on specific things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Elevate and ZVZ or cities, whether it's this group for GVG, and the reality is we're trying to at least give a taste of every type of gameplay, whether it's economic or fame farm or whatever it might be. And so realistically, I mean, just for faction warfare, I mean, putting together, 5 or 6 groups a week of regular content, that's a lot of work, because you also got to figure it's not like we're just pinging out, okay, everybody show up, flag up Martlock. And, we've got dudes that want to try it out that have literally been playing the game 2 days, and we got to hand them out gear and go over spells and go over this and help, so it's a fair bit more work than just saying, hey, let's grab 100 people and go do some faction warfare, right? You're actually training people as you go. And so that's why there's a fair bit more overhead involved with the new bros, with Newbie, than most groups, because most groups expect whatever the type of content is, whether it's ZVZ, faction warfare, whatever it is, for the players to have a certain level of competence. That's just assumed, right? You got that somewhere else, right? You went and joined some new player group. You got the basics of, what is a E, what is a Q, what is, what I mean, like basic movement. I mean, we're, before every ZVZ or faction warfare, we're going over basic movement commands, basic shot calling commands, basic spells, what is your E, all these basic things. And so, yeah, having somebody in each one of those departments and SIGs, leading it, creating the content, putting it together, organizing it, coordinating with mentors to hand out gear, et cetera, that's a lot of work. So we're definitely looking for more mentors, et cetera, et cetera. Shot callers, we do pretty regular training.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, somebody who is a raid leader or a fleet commander in EVE or, raid lead in I don't know, World of Warcraft, whatever, that wants to try their hand, because at the end of the day, this game needs more shot callers, right? This game needs more content creators, in my opinion. So we try to get their feet wet, get them the basic, working knowledge of, what goes into, putting together a group, making sure you have comm, making sure that everybody understands what your commands are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's, it does take a fair bit more work than a group where all of those things are already known explicitly. If you go into Final Order and ZVZ or shot caller, you're expected to have a certain level of competence that a guy that's been playing the game a week, there's no way in hell he has, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been going quite a while here. Is there anybody you'd like to shout out before we go? Any of these great callers that you have here? Any of these great recruitment officers? Somebody who's stepped up special? One of those brave newbies who joined 3 weeks ago and is now clapping fools in the back line? Any of those players?
I mean, there's so many, to be frank. I mean, the entire leadership team of Newbie, they all bust their ass, spend hours upon hours upon hours answering questions. I mean, you're in the Discord. You can see it's hundreds, if not thousands, of questions a day. And that doesn't include what goes on in the voice channels. These people take time out of their game to answer questions, help new bros. So all of the leadership team of Newbie, I'd say Gluttony of the Arch for having newbies back and not not forcing newbie to rent. No. I mean, let's be real. There's a lot of renting going on in this game, and it's better for us to spend that silver on new player gear and spinning up new special interest groups and new types of content, doing events. We do probably a dozen events a week. Whether it's drunken fame farming, PvP, we do consume a lot of alcohol and smoke a lot of weed. We're definitely not a PG community. We definitely have fun. So all the people that put those kind of groups together, obviously Overdose and the rest of the folks that have been with me since the beginning. It's almost been a year that Newbie's been around. I don't know if you were aware of that.
No. Well, congratulations.
The people that show up. I mean, now Newbies. Well over 100 people in their main Zerg. That's pretty impressive for a new player group. And obviously, all the people that put in all the work, like with the Newbie show. That's a lot of work. I mean, I know a lot of people don't realize it, but it takes probably 15, 20 people behind the scenes to make one of those things actually work. Between handing out gear and herding new players and answering questions and actually leading the groups and etc. It's a lot of work.
It's definitely it definitely is. It's definitely not easy to make it happen every Wednesday and Friday at 16:30 UTC, right here on twitch.tv/Albion Online.
But yeah, I would say anybody out there wants to get involved and help, whether you're a vet that is kind of just sitting back chilling and you're relatively experienced, or you're willing to give back, contact me. We're always looking for more mentors. We never have enough mentors. Unfortunately, we have probably 50 to 100. We don't even have enough recruiters to onboard people, to be honest. We probably have 50 to 100 people looking to join us every day, and we probably honestly capture half of that, to be honest. On the mentor side, that there's more often than I'd like to admit, situations where, it takes a while for somebody to get an answer because there's just so many people asking so many questions that it's, there's just, not enough mentors to go around. So if you're sitting out there and you're willing to give some back to the community, definitely hit me up.
Well, I hope that people do. There are going to be a lot of people listening today, and I hope you get a couple of mentors to help out those new players. Well, thank you very much, Voltel, for joining us today on Albion TV. I look forward to having you guys back again soon for the Newbie show. I hope that everything goes well for you inside the midst of Arch, surrounded by...
We'll definitely be going Mist of Avalon, my friend.
Oh, yeah, you are? You've already got plans for the future?
Absolutely.
Well, excellent. I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you again for stopping by, and we will see you guys soon.
Cheers.